Long before the idea of America, before liberty was a cause men died for, one king defined what it meant to lead from the front. This is the story of Richard I of England, better known as Richard the Lionheart. He wasn't a king who ruled from the comfort of a palace. His throne was the saddle, his kingdom the battlefield. While England footed the bill for his crown, Richard's ambition lay thousands of miles away, in a holy war that promised either glory or destruction. The Third Crusade was a hornet's nest of ambition. Armies from across Europe had gathered, but they were far from united. Different languages, different loyalties, and wildly different goals created a powder keg of tension. Into this chaos stepped Richard. He arrived not with wide-eyed idealism, but with the hardened experience of a lifelong warrior. He understood a fundamental truth of warfare. Numbers are important, but disciplined resolve is what truly wins battles. His army was dwarfed by the forces of Saladin. Thousands upon thousands of skilled enemy cavalry shadowed his every move as he marched his army down the coast. For days, they were a constant, menacing presence. They launched hit-and-run attacks. They tested his flanks. They probed for any sign of weakness, any crack in the discipline of his men. They were waiting for a single mistake, a moment of panic that would allow them to swarm and annihilate the Crusader force. Then came the coastal plain near the city of Arsuf. It was a death trap, a narrow strip of land, with the sparkling Mediterranean Sea on one side and a dense forest on the other. There was no room to maneuver, no path for escape, and absolutely no possibility of a strategic retreat. Here, Richard would have to make his stand. His orders were simple and absolute. Hold the line. No matter the provocation, no matter the casualties, no matter the fear, the formation must not break. The assault began. Wave after relentless wave of enemy cavalry crashed against the Crusader shield wall, the air filled with the thunder of hooves, the shriek of steel on steel, and the hiss of countless arrows. Dust choked the air, so thick it was hard to breathe, let alone see. The sun was merciless, beating down on men clad in heavy armor. Soldiers began to collapse, not from wounds, but from sheer heat and exhaustion. The Crusader line, once a straight, defiant wall of shields, began to buckle and bend under the immense pressure. Richard's own commanders, seeing their men on the verge of collapse, pleaded with him. They begged him to give the order to counterattack, to unleash the heavy knights and break the siege. To charge, to do anything to end the suffering. But Richard, with ice in his veins, refused. He knew timing was everything. A premature charge would be a disaster. His knights would be swallowed by the enemy hordes. But to wait even a moment too long would mean the complete annihilation of his army. Every second was a gamble, with thousands of lives. Seeing the Crusader line waver, the enemy believed victory was within their grasp. They sensed the breaking point was near and committed everything they had for a final, decisive push. And that was the exact moment Richard had been waiting for. This was the trap. As the enemy forces surged forward in a disorganized mass, Richard raised his royal banner. It was the signal. With one unified, deafening roar, the Crusader knights charged. This wasn't a desperate, chaotic rush. It was a controlled, disciplined hammer blow aimed directly at the heart of the overextended enemy. The sheer kinetic force of Europe's heaviest cavalry, men and horses bred for the shock of the charge, smashed through the lighter enemy formations. The momentum of the battle flipped in an instant. What had looked like certain defeat just minutes before was transformed into overwhelming dominance. The enemy lines shattered. Confusion turned to panic, and panic turned to a full-blown rout. They fled. But Richard was not a man to be baited into a reckless pursuit. Victory could be lost as quickly as it was won. He halted the chase, reformed his lines, and secured the battlefield. He had won the day not through brute force alone, but through incredible patience and an iron will that bent but never broke. Yet the Battle of Arsuf was not the end of the story. Victory on the battlefield did not translate to winning the war. The crusade would drag on, bogged down by politics, rivalries, and logistical nightmares. Betrayal would follow, and Richard would eventually be captured on his long journey home, spending years as a prisoner. He would never take Jerusalem, he would never achieve his ultimate goal, and he would not return to England as the flawless, conquering hero of legend. But the legacy of Arsuf was cemented. It sent a shockwave through the world. It proved that a smaller, disciplined force, led by a commander with unshakable resolve, could defeat a numerically superior enemy. It demonstrated that a king could lead from the very front, share the same risks as his lowest foot soldier, and make the kind of life-or-death decisions that forge empires or shatter them. History tends to remember the crowns, the treaties, and the lines of succession. But soldiers, the ones who live and die by a commander's orders, remember leadership, and Richard the Lionheart earned his legendary name. Not sitting on a throne in London, but in the grit, the heat, and the blood-soaked dust of a faraway battlefield. Thanks for watching. If you found this story of leadership and courage interesting, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more tales from history.